Hey everyone, welcome back to Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite. I'm your host, Jim Chapman, and we are back with another Bad Teacher Series episode. But before we get into it, I've got another Patreon Global Celebrity member to shout out, and that is David Hollywood Banks. And look, first of all, you can't go wrong with a nickname like Hollywood. David is from Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and interestingly, Hopkinsville was a stop along the Trail of Tears. It's also home to the National Park System's Trail of Tears Commemorative Park. Every September, the Trail of Tears Indian Powwow comes to town to that park, and there's a museum, a burial ground, and they actually have two very important Cherokee leaders who died during the removal of the Cherokee Indians. So shout out David Hollywood Banks. Thank you so much for supporting and becoming a Global Celebrity Patreon member. Now, let's get into this week's Bad Teacher. And we're going to take you to Kaysville, Utah, which is about 25 miles north of Salt Lake City. And I'm going to bring you inside Davis High School for this one, and I'm going to tell you about a bad teacher by the name of Brianne Altice. So to give you a little history on Breanne, she was born in Utah, and in 2004, she was hired to work as a teacher at an elementary school in the Davis County School District. Then, in 2011, she started teaching full-time at Sunset Junior High School, and that's really where her problems began, at least behind the scenes. It was not until much later in 2013 that these problems would surface. We'll get into August of 2012. She begins teaching English at Davis High School, and everything seems fine on the surface. At this point, she has 2 children, she's married, etc. Then, in the fall of 2013, a teacher by the name of Shauna Warwick, who actually taught with Altice at the junior high school prior to Altice being transferred to the high school, she's in a local park with her husband and daughter, and much to her surprise, she sees Altice at the park and a student from the high school. They're laid out on a blanket and they're having a picnic lunch. Well, this did not look innocent to Miss Warwick, and she would describe it later as looking more like a date between the two. She takes a bunch of pictures of this, and the next week she emails the principal of the high school where Brianne Altice is teaching. And basically in that email, she's like, I got some pictures you're probably going to want to see. Now, a little history on Miss Warwick. She worked as an aide, actually in Miss Altice's classroom at that junior high. And later, she would say that this was not the first time she had complained about Altice's interactions with students. She would say that it was common for Altice to intentionally stand on chairs and, quote, wiggle herself all the way up while lowering a movie projector screen. She would also say that Altice would commonly have students in her classroom when they were not supposed to be in there. She said that while teaching at the junior high school, many of the other teachers would comment on her dressing inappropriately, and even saying that when one teacher heard that Altice was being transferred from the junior high to the high school, the teacher commented, I give it 2 years and she will be in the news. So back at the high school, they're dealing with these picture allegations this time, and they talked to said teen that was in these pictures, and that boy told police eventually that he had sex with Brianne Altice, which allegedly occurred between the spring and August of 2012 when he was 16 years old. The teen went on to say that he and Altice had sex about 7 times, 5 times at her home and twice somewhere in Kaysville. Police wanted some confirmation on that. Did she have any markings that you wouldn't see like tattoos, etc. He was able to describe tattoos on her body that were hidden unless she was naked, and the layout of her house. So police get this information, and the next thing they do, they search Altice's home. Then a news release comes out. Quote, with the assistance of the Davis County Sheriff's Office, Miss Altice was interviewed and evidence from the residents corroborated what the victim had told us, according to the police department. The document added that investigators photographed Altice's tattoos and her home and got a search warrant for her phone data. So after hearing her Miranda rights, Altice admitted to having sex with the teen on 2 occasions, once at her home and once at a Kaysville park. Altice is then placed on paid administrative leave pending the outcome of an investigation. Now, this was on October 29th of 2013, and at this time, although she was arrested, no formal charges were filed. Not sure why. I guess they wanted to get with the district attorney and do more investigating, make sure they had enough evidence for a conviction. But considering she admitted to some of these allegations, kind of surprised me. But regardless, Altice does bail out on a $10,000 bail. Then on December 18th of 2013, charges are officially filed in the case. 3 counts of first-degree felony rape, to be exact, from the allegations of sex with the then 16-year-old male student. That is a big deal. First-degree rape is life in prison. She's got 3 counts of that. Officially, Altice was accused of having had sexual intercourse with the boy, who at this point in the investigation was 17, on at least 3 occasions between January and September of 2013. A preliminary hearing was then set for January 31st of 2014, and it was at that hearing that testimony from the alleged victim and a law enforcement officer was heard. The judge then ruled there was probable cause that the teacher committed the crimes and officially orders a trial. A new charge was also added at this hearing, which was 1 count of first-degree felony forcible sodomy, which, if you're curious what that means, in Utah, that could mean anally or orally assaulting a victim. In this particular case, it's orally. It was also discovered at this time that her husband had filed for divorce and custody of their children in December. So life is not good at all in this stage for Altice. Then on February 27th of 2014, Altice pleaded to the charges. And as you would expect, she pleaded not guilty, and not much occurs after that for a little while, at least in public, until June 3rd of 2014. Now, Breanne had been fighting to get the charges dismissed this whole time, which is not out of the ordinary. Any defense attorney is going to try to do that. But it's on this date that the judge officially provides what's known as a refusal to dismiss on those charges. Her attorney argued that prosecutors did not prove at the preliminary hearing that Altice held a position of trust as the boy's teacher and that she used that position to exercise undue influence over him. He wrote in his motion to dismiss that the teen testified during the preliminary hearing that he was the aggressor and that it was his ultimate goal to have sex with Altice. Quote, she repeatedly refused and declined his advances until he ultimately broke down her resistance. That from her attorney. Now, before I go any further, already you can see she's the victim, right? Typical of all of these cases, really, that we cover. The state failed to establish probable cause to believe that intercourse that occurred was without consent, the attorney added. So the prosecutor, actually the Deputy Davis County Attorney Christina Ortega, she argued in a response motion that teachers inherently have influence over their students. Absolutely correct, because they can discipline students, they can give students grades, and they have the ability to justify or excuse absences in other classrooms. And of course, the judge went with the prosecution on this, and it was a big win for the prosecution at this point. So a trial date also gets set, and it's set for September 15th of 2014. And so we wait, right? Well, it's more problems for this teacher when on August 4th of 2014, more charges are filed after another student claims sex with Altice. And we see this all the time when we're covering these cases, right? More people come forward as they feel safe, and it was no exception with this teen. And in the new charges, prosecutors filed one additional count of rape and one additional count of forced sodomy against Altice, who at this time is 35, after a 17-year-old tells police that he had sexual intercourse and oral sex with the former teacher once between April and June of 2014. So after all the new charges are filed, Altice's attorney, he asked that the upcoming trial be canceled so that his client could have a preliminary hearing on the new charges. And as you would expect, the judge grants that request. That was reasonable. So on September 19th of 2014, that second teen, he testifies at his pretrial hearing. The now 18-year-old gives graphic details about how he went from being Altice's student to allegedly having sex with the woman in his home. Now, Altice at this point was charged with 4 counts of first-degree felony rape and 2 counts of sodomy. The teen testified that he was 17 years old when a relationship with Altice took place that prior year. A relationship that started with kissing between class periods and allegedly led to intercourse. The teen testified that he told authorities about his relationship with Altice the same day that she was arrested for charges related to that first teen. But in July of 2014, he went to prosecutors and told them it was all a lie. He said, "I felt sorry for her kids more than her," quote unquote. He said, quote, "I felt sorry for her kids more than her. Obviously, she knew what she was doing. I was just thinking about her kids, how I grew up without my mom, etc." However, on the stand, he testified that he was telling the truth and that the inappropriate relationship did happen. And he described Altice as, quote, "a teacher with benefits." So after hearing the teen's testimony, the DA asked for more charges to be added to Altice, including 3 counts of forcible sexual abuse, all second-degree felonies. The judge granted the request, and at this point, the former teacher faced 9 felony charges and life in prison. So obviously, Altice is in a world of shit, and it does not get any better for her. When on December 11th of 2014, a third student comes forward with claims of sex with her. Altice allegedly had sexual contact with this 17-year-old boy between August and September of 2014. So another preliminary hearing is set, and another charge of first-degree rape is in place on Altice, bringing her felony charges now to 10. During these Bad Teacher series episodes, I usually have a hold on to your ass kind of moment, right? A shocking, I can't believe this shit moment. Well, here's the one, and I'm going to quote you this one straight from the Salt Lake City Tribune because it has a few moving parts to it. January 8th of 2015. Former Utah teacher faces more charges after teen says they had sex again. A former Davis High School teacher is facing more felony charges after prosecutors accused the 35-year-old woman of having sex with a teenage boy after she was arrested and charged for allegedly having sex with several students. Brianne Altice was charged with 3 counts of unlawful sexual activity with a minor and 1 count of dealing in harmful material to a minor, all third-degree felonies. According to the arrest warrant, Altice allegedly had sex and oral sex with a 17-year-old boy between November 2013 and August of 2014. She is also accused of sending the boy a text message with a photograph of her breast on June 7th of 2014. Y'all, that was just 6 months before this article came out. Her attorney said Thursday that prosecutors allege the victim in the new case is one of 3 teenage boys who have accused her of sexual relationships while she was a teacher. She is facing 10 felony charges in another case for those alleged sexual relationships. Because the alleged crimes happened when Altice was out on bail on other charges, which included 5 counts of first-degree felony rape, 2 counts of first-degree sodomy, and 3 counts of second-degree felony forcible sexual abuse, prosecutors have asked that no bail hold be placed on the former teacher. However, according to court records, Altice was booked into the Davis County Jail and bailed out the same day. No court date has been set on the new case. Altice was originally arrested in October of 2013, and criminal charges were filed against her in December of 2013 after a 16-year-old boy told police he had several sexual encounters with Altice between January and September of 2013. In October of 2014, a second teen testified at a hearing that he was 17 years old when a relationship with Altice took place between April and June of 2014. A relationship that began with kissing between class periods and eventually led to intercourse. A January 15th hearing is scheduled in the 2nd District Court to hear evidence from a third teen. According to the charging documents, Altice allegedly had sexual contact with that 17-year-old boy between August of 2013 and September of 2013. If convicted as charged, Altice faces up to life in prison. Her attorney filed a motion in early November asking for separate trials for each of the victims, arguing the alleged acts were not part of a common scheme or plan. Her attorney said in another motion filed before charges were filed in connection to the third victim that Altice claims the sexual relationship didn't happen, that she never engaged in any inappropriate relationship with either of those students. Prosecutors say Altice acknowledged to investigators she had engaged in sex with the 16-year-old boy on 2 occasions, but her attorney asked the judge not to allow those statements in the trial, arguing that she was intimidated by the 8 to 10 male officers who came to her home last October to interview her on that investigation. So just a couple of weeks later, she has the pretrial hearing for that third student who came forward with allegations. And he was now 18 years old. And he said that his relationship with Brianne Altice started as just his teacher at Davis High School. Then she was his friend, someone who listened as he talked about his family problems and his struggles in school. Eventually, he said he considered the 35-year-old woman to be his girlfriend. He testified that he had a sexual relationship with his former English teacher for about a year, starting in September of 2013 when they had intercourse near a water tower. And to tell you how serious this relationship was, y'all, I've got the actual transcripts from his interview. He had sex with her almost every day. And many of those times, twice a day, when school ended and at lunchtime. He said he still cares about the teacher and was very unhappy to be testifying. It's ridiculous, he said. She doesn't deserve to be here. The 18-year-old testified he had sex with Altice once before October of 2013 when she was initially arrested. Then the 18-year-old said he had sex 3 more times after December of 2013 when she was free on bail. There was a concern, he said, that we would get caught seeing each other because I was underage. Altice also sent the boy the text message with the photo of her breast in June of 2014, as I told you. This was nearly 8 months after being released on bail. He also testified to contacting the other victims of the teacher and attempting to get them not to testify, which kind of shows you the mind control she had over this kid when he was underage. I'm going to read you an actual text he sent to another one of the guys that had sex with Altice in trying to get the guy not to testify against Altice. Quote, "You want me to threaten you so they can get me with witness tampering too. Don't worry, this isn't over. I'm going to prove you're a fucking lying piece of shit scumbag who's going to rot in the deepest caves of hell. I fucking despise you, and I swear to God, one day you will get your karma. I will never forget this. And when you're fucking dead, I'm going to spit on your fucking grave every night, you fucking sociopathic, narcissistic, lying scumbag. I know you're lying, and I'm going to prove it." So that's how pissed off this guy was. This is how controlled he was. She was screwing this guy every day after school, and most days after school and at lunch. That's why this is such a big issue. And it's interesting to note that this kid today, I'm not going to say his name, but I know who he is. This kid today is an attorney, but we'll move on. And obviously, Altice broke her bail conditions with all of this, and she's immediately arrested again at this preliminary hearing. Even though she had bailed out that second time, this time the judge decides to have a no-hold bond on her. So she can't bail out. She's stuck in jail at this point. And I have actually the video from her getting handcuffed right there in the courtroom. She looks shocked. And I'm going to post it on the Patreon for all the celebrity members. But at this point, 14 felonies for Altice. So on April 15th of 2015, Altice realizes that she's screwed. No way out of this one. And she does what they all do. She plea bargains. And I will never understand why prosecutors plea bargain in cases that are chock full of evidence like this. I get plea bargains as a general rule in a lot of cases. Look, prisons are overcrowded. They're trying to control that. Sometimes they don't have the evidence that they think an entire jury would convict someone on. But I would love to see plea bargains go away when it comes to cases where it involves underage folks. I would love to see that. But she does cop quite the plea bargain. And I have no doubt that her beauty played a major role in her sweeter than sweet deal. Brianne Altice, she cries as she pleaded guilty to 3 counts of second-degree felony forcible sexual abuse. And as part of that deal, 11 felony charges were completely dismissed related to the allegations that the former English teacher had sexual relationships with 3 teen boys beginning in 2013. Those charges included counts of first-degree sodomy and rape, and they come with life sentences, as well as charges of unlawful sexual activity with a minor and dealing in harmful material to a minor, texting them nude pics, etc. The former teacher admitted in a plea agreement document that she touched the genitals of the 3 individuals from January to September of 2013. And at this point, she's facing 1 to 15 years for each of the 3 counts. But she came from facing life in prison. So now we just wait for the sentencing. And Altice, she sends a letter to the judge just prior to that sentencing. Very smart girl, as far as education is concerned. And I'm going to read you the letter she sent to that judge. Dear Honorable Judge K, and incidentally, this is May 28th of 2015. I know you are busy and I don't want to take up too much of your time. However, I have a few things I'd like to inform you of. First, I'm writing this letter out of sincerity. It's not propelled by panic. I can't begin to imagine the type of pressure day to day you are under, making decisions that greatly impact a person's foreseeable future. That can't be easy. Secondly, I'd like to let you know a little bit about me, the real me, that in turn I hope helps you with this sentencing decision you have before you. It's humbling to even write this letter to you. Over a year ago, when all this began, it lit a fire under me. The guilt and sorrow I felt for everyone was intense. I had to choose what to focus on and to be able to take responsibility and get through this in a healthy way. I needed to be accountable, still be an active mother while starting a new career. At the same time, somehow, lead my family through what is to become the most difficult situation my family has faced. I decided that I needed to focus on a solution in order to mend and fix the problem. The problem, however, had to be identified to find a positive, healthy solution. Taking responsibility for what was happening began the healing process. And earn back the life that I worked hard for years was important. I began by seeking counseling, feeling that I needed to take a good look at myself to figure out how I'd gotten to that place in my life to let this happen. It was critical. After some time, it began to emerge that the struggles which I had previously been going through in my 12-year marriage were strong contributors to the poor decisions I was making. It was a hard reality to face, but in order to find a way to make amends and move forward, I had to. Realizing I had the power to choose a different mindset and create a healthy motivation was empowering. These struggles and poor decisions had altered who I was and had a hand in the decline of my core values for a portion of time. When I was able to better understand what had caused this, I was able to begin to move forward. I then took action to change. It was time to focus on the solution I spoke of earlier. I started researching and networking to make connections and build the appropriate relationships with people to start to develop a cell phone/email technology bill, focusing on that venue of communication between teacher and student. I began looking into this because I believe it's where the problems can begin and escalate from there. I'd like to be able to be an advocate, resource, and help the prevention of future situations such as this. I was also in the process of meeting with program writers to help brainstorm software ideas to piggyback on the bill, combine a texting and email source that connects directly to whatever the school district system is. This way, the districts could still stay current with the always advancing technologies, yet be able to track and maintain authority and security with teacher-student communications. I share all this with you because I believe it shows the type of person I am, and that I am serious, that I am taking all of this serious. I do not want precious time I've lost with my two amazing children, my successful career, the time getting my life back on track, and this experience to be in vain. I want to and can help. My teaching career is over, which breaks my heart. I helped many students see their potential to become diligent students and give them the tools to continue their educational path with confidence. I always strive to be a positive influence on their lives I entered. I have a soft heart and have always tried to help wherever I could. I will hold all of that dear to my heart. I will forever be sorry for my actions at the loss it had caused all sides. I realize how lucky I am to have such an amazing support system of family and friends that know and believe in the person I am. What I do next is what I would like to focus on from here on out. This situation will be a part of me forever, but will not define me. Good will come out of this. I'm a fighter and I'm worth the fight and I will succeed. I made some bad choices during a short period of time and that behavior was out of character for me. However, I'd like to show my children that through this struggle, mom may have fallen, but she got up, learned from it, and created something helpful and positive from it. I will be making changes to prevent this from happening to others. My family and I understand that the law and society expect a debt and retribution to be paid for the crime I pleaded guilty to. Some incarceration, probation, and fines are likely. If more incarceration time is what you believe needs to happen, I ask that you please consider that it be further jail time, not prison. This crime will not be repeated by me, that I can guarantee. I will be continuing the one-on-one counseling I was engaged in prior to my incarceration in January of 2015 and agree probation for some time will be the most encouraging and successful route. I'm harmless, I'm not a threat, I'm not violent, I have no criminal history, and I do not do drugs. I have a home and a job and would like to keep it. And she's talking about a job not in teaching. She was working somewhere else apparently while all this was going on and after she lost her teaching job. I'd love to continue to be the active mother I've always been and my children need. I see myself and my life in a new way. I know it does not excuse what happened, but it can help mend it. I have not only the desire, but the capability of making a difference and positive change, which I fully intend to do once I walk out of these doors. All I'm asking is for a chance, Your Honor. You will not regret it. Sincerely, Brianne Altice. So take from that what you will. Obviously, very well educated, and a lot of what she said made sense. Do I think she needed to be in prison the rest of her life? No. But those charges were a lot more serious than what she's really alluding to. And we'll get back to that in a minute. But on July 27th, Breanne's sentencing day rolls around. And the judge sentences 36-year-old Altice to 3 prison terms of 1 to 15 years, with the first 2 terms running consecutively and the last one running concurrently. So the judge gives her 1 year for each. Well, she's really only having 2 years in prison because 2 of those are going to run concurrent, right? Absolutely pathetic sentence for all of this. Why? Because just 2 years later, in 2017, she comes up for parole. Now, she said some things during that parole. I'll just quote some of those. She says, "I regret my decisions that brought us here today. I'm extremely remorseful. I took advantage of a student's care and concern. I hope they can get the help they need to live full and productive lives." She also went on to say it was no one else's fault. It was not my ex-husband's fault, not the school's fault. This was not the student's fault. So she's taking responsibility for all of those things. And good for the parole board. They deny her on that parole. But in 2019, she comes up again for parole. And on September 11th of 2019, Brianne Altice is released from prison after 4.5 years. Now, she obviously can't teach ever again, and she did have to register as a sex offender. But for everything she did, this should paint a picture of why this problem exists. Now, I told you that I had the transcripts of one of these students in particular, and I'm just going to go over the deposition that this student gave, a little bit of it. I mean, this thing is over 100 pages. I'm not obviously going to quote you all that, but there's some things that stuck out to me. For example, question, did Miss Altice ever suggest you take drugs? Answer, get ready for this. We did drugs together, but she never handed me drugs. Question, you said you did drugs together with Miss Altice. When was that? Answer, it wasn't very often. I think it was at her last house that she owned. She had that house and then an apartment and then the last house, if I remember correctly. So this teacher was doing drugs with her students. Not very innocent of a teacher, right? Question, in your junior and your senior year, let's say before and after you had your meeting with Miss Altice in the summer, Miss Altice mention parents complaining about her behavior? Answer, yes, she had informed me on that and complaints of her provocative dress. Question, did you think her dress was provocative? Answer, yes. Question, how so? Answer, tight, high heels. I mean, it's not hard to imagine. Question, not hard to imagine what? Answer, I mean, makeup versus no makeup, high heels versus no high heels, dress. I mean, I don't know. I can't really explain it to you. Tight dresses, low-cut shirt. I mean, provocative dress, pretty self-explanatory. Question, were there any other teachers at Davis High School that dressed the same way Miss Altice did? Answer, no. Question, okay, in a prior interrogation, you were asked to describe all the instances of sexual intercourse or sexual contact occurring between the two of you. And your answer is, as to sexual contact, this took place nearly daily. And I guess the question and the answer aren't limited to time. So when you were still in school, were you having daily sexual contact with Miss Altice? Answer, when I was a senior? Question, yes. Answer, nearly daily. I think that it's safe to assume that. And it just goes into a lot of other stuff, y'all, but you heard it. Nearly daily. Unbelievable to me that this lady got less than 5 years of time served. What do you think? Curious to hear that. I've got a ton of pictures. I've got a couple of videos of her at hearings, etc., that I'm going to post on the Patreon. So thank you to all my Patreon supporters. You're why we exist. And thank you to everyone out there who shares, listens, and rates the podcast. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And quickly, I don't know if I'm going to be finished in time to drop the next Murdaugh episode this week. I've got a lot going on outside of podcasting this week, just life stuff. So I will keep you posted. You'll see my posts. Follow me on Facebook, hit the alert bell wherever you're listening, and it'll alert you as we drop things. I'm trying to get that out this week, but I don't want to rush it. It's a very important episode, and I want to make sure all my I's are dotted and T's are crossed and all that stuff. If it doesn't happen, just know I did everything I could to make it happen. So thank you so much, and until next time, for Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite, I'm your host, Jim Chapman. Much love.